Joseph, the prisoner. The traders took Joseph to Egypt, and they sold him to one of the king's own soldiers. He was a man named Potiphar. He was kind, and Joseph worked hard for him. In fact, he worked so hard that Potiphar put Joseph in charge of all his other slaves, and they had to do what Joseph told them to do. Potiphar's wife, however, was evil and cruel. She told lies about Joseph and had him thrown into prison. Joseph was very sad, but God caused the jailer to be kind to Joseph and put him in charge of the other prisoners. One morning, one of the other prisoners said, "I had a dream last night, a strange dream. I dreamt I saw a grapevine with 3 branches. Suddenly bunches of grapes burst out of those branches, so I squeezed them into a cup and I gave it to the king to drink. I wonder what it means." Joseph listened to the dream, and he heard from God what it meant. "I know what it means," said Joseph. "Before you were sent to prison, you served wine to the king. Well, in 3 days you will be set free, and you will serve him wine once more." And that's exactly what happened. And when the wine server was set free, he promised to help Joseph get out too. Another prisoner who had once worked for Pharaoh as a baker also asked Joseph to explain his dream. He had seen 3 baskets of baked food with one on his head, and the birds came. They ate the food from the basket on his head. Joseph sadly explained that this meant that the baker would be executed in 3 days. And 3 days later, sadly, that's what happened. The baker was executed. 2 years passed, and then suddenly Joseph was freed from prison, washed and dressed in clean clothes. This all happened because Pharaoh had a dream, and no one could explain it. The butler had remembered how Joseph had explained his dream and told Pharaoh about him. Pharaoh had 2 dreams. In the first dream, he saw 7 fat cows come out of the river and feed from the grass in the meadow. But then he saw 7 thin cows come out of the river and eat up the 7 fat cows. In another dream, Pharaoh saw 7 fat ears of grain growing on one stalk. Then he saw 7 thin ears of grain eat up the 7 fat ears of grain. Pharaoh had woken up very worried about the dreams and what the dreams meant. Joseph listened carefully and then explained the dreams. God says there'll be 7 years with plenty of food, and then 7 years with very little food. Choose a man to build storehouses, gather the grain and store it when there is plenty. Then, when there is little grain, there'll be enough food stored away to feed people. Pharaoh saw that Joseph was very wise and put him in charge of all the grain collection and storehouses. He gave him a ring for his finger and a gold chain to wear around his neck. Everyone had to bow down before Joseph because he was now the second most important person in Egypt after Pharaoh.